All right, now I get into some more miscellaneous type palettes. This one here is from No7. I'd never really tried their eyeshadow formula before. I picked up the shade Smoky. It's pretty. The formulas are nice. It is all sort of satin to slightly metallic shades. So I do feel like for the most part when I reach into this palette that I'm gonna probably reach to pair it with something else. I do like some of the lid shades that were in here. I thought they applied well with a brush. You do get a lot of similarity in undertones there, right? So I just swatched these two, and they are super similar. This pink was actually pretty. I did remember liking it. But all in all, I just opened this up and I'm kind of like, eh. And if I feel that way about a palette, that's kind of a good sign for me to say, you don't love this enough to hang on to it. Maybe someone else would enjoy more. So I do feel like this is one I'm comfortable passing along. These two here are from Collab Beauty. These are newer to my collection. These are ones that are exclusive to Sally Beauty. It's a line that they've started up and they've collabed with different influencers to build out a whole makeup collection. I've tried a few products from Collab and I've thought about doing sort of a collab roundup based on the things I've tried. I think I've tried the concealer at this point. I've tried the foundation, the illuminating one at least. I've tried a couple eyeshadow palettes. There may be a blush in there as well. If you guys are interested in kind of a video on Collab, let me know. Happy to film that one. I've kind of had it on the back burner for a while, like, oh, that would be good to do at some point. But these are the two that I picked up. This is the one that called After Hours. It's kind of a smoky palette that has some neutrals and some greens. I thought the color story was really pretty. It appealed to me to be able to have a warmer brown shade, and then you've got this really interesting duochrome sort of brown shifting green shade that really called to me as well. So far been fairly impressed with the both pigmentation and blendability of these shadows. I've enjoyed them. The silver is absolutely beautiful. It's got a really nice pop and shine to it. So I have been impressed with this palette and I do want to hang on to these. Like I said, they're new to my collection and my experiences so far with them have been very positive. And then this is a really pretty sort of cool tone purple palette called First Impressions. I've been wanting to try and find some more cool tone palettes out on the marketplace. And I liked that you had more of the taupe story going down here, but then you also had a really sort of pretty purpley story going on here. And I'm a sucker for a good mauve transition shade. I really love that color mauve in my crease. That is really pretty. And then one of my all-time favorite sort of dark, grungy, cool tone bronze shades, that always calls my name. So so far I've really enjoyed the formulas on here, but like I said, I think I've played with these probably, I would say maybe 2 or 3 times a piece. So I do want to hang on to them at this point. These two palettes are ones that I picked up in South Korea when I was over there. So this is a product from a brand called Make Wake, their Balm Eyes eyeshadow palette. It actually had some really fun colors in there, which I found was kind of interesting. My experience with Korean beauty products is that they really like a really soft, subtle eye. They're not into a lot of bright colors. They're not into a whole lot of really metallic shades either. So this one I thought was just a really interesting find. I still don't know why this little thing covers up these white shades down here. These are not cream. These are just metallics and some mattes as well. I guess maybe to protect the lighter shades from the darker shades. I don't know. I don't understand this configuration, to be completely honest, but I did find the pigmentation and quality of these shades to be really, really pretty and really blendable. Like I said, it is a fun eyeshadow palette, and for both sentimental reasons and also because I genuinely enjoy it, I am going to hang on to it. And then the other one I have from my Korea trip is one from a brand called Clio Professional. This is their Pro Layering Eye Palette. These I know are available on Amazon. This is number 2. Handcraft is the name of this palette. And it's just a really interesting sort of muted warm palette. You get a lot of bright orange palettes, but I felt like you had this really beautiful muted rust shade and then some warmer shades here, but then you also had these more sort of soft rose shades, and the formula on these were absolutely beautiful as well. Like, really impressed with the quality of both of these eyeshadow palettes, and every time I use them I've just really enjoyed the looks that I come up with. So These two are staying. Okay, so next up, we're going to be looking at all of my Makeup Revolution palettes. A lot of them are rather large, so I'm just gonna lay them out kind of one by one and we'll talk about them. Okay, so here are two palettes. This is a Reloaded Basic Mattes palette. This came out fall last year. I do think that the matte formula in these sort of, what are these, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 pan palettes are okay. I think they're a lot better than the shimmer formulas. I don't care for the shimmer formulas in this sort of Reloaded palette, not historically. I think these are fine, but they all ended up being, I don't know, very similar looking on the eyes. Like I felt like there was a ton of duplication in a lot of the colors, and I don't know, I have matte palettes that I prefer. We already looked at several of them, so I am comfortable passing this one along. These palettes are definitely a step up in terms of quality. These were from their Jewel Pop collection. They came out with like a silver, a gold, and a rose gold sort of front to them. They're a really nice high quality mirror at the top. And then they have a mix of matte and sort of satin shades down here. The mattes are nice. I think they're better than the mattes that we just looked at in that last palette. They do need to be built up a little bit. The shimmers down here are okay. I will say where this palette starts to shine is this row of shimmer shades is definitely, in my opinion, the best formula of shimmer shades that they have done. It is very soft to the touch, but it really packs a heck of a lot of pigment in a way that I haven't seen from a lot of other palettes from Makeup Revolution. So in that respect, I was impressed with the sort of metallic looks that I could get with this palette. There's just a lot of pinky mauve in this. I just wasn't super inspired by any of the color schemes, but I will say I did really enjoy the quality of these palettes. So I do think I'm gonna pass this on because I do think somebody else will really enjoy it. Maybe somebody who likes those more muted pinky looks. But yeah, so I think that one's gonna pass. This palette is from Soph Loves Makeup. So I don't know if she's Soph X or if the X is there as a with. So oftentimes you see blank X blank, and the X usually means with. In this case, I'm not sure if this is Soph with Makeup Revolution or her handle is Soph X. I should know that, but I don't. I kept this sheet because it had the names on it, and I think I've just decided I no longer care to keep this sheet. I just don't like them. It drives me crazy every time I open up the palette. But that being said, I really do enjoy the color story that is in this palette. I think it's really, really pretty. I think you've got the ability to do very warm, spicy looks. You've got some cool tone purples and pinks over here, some really nice, more transitional cool tone shades. So I really just felt like this was a nice diverse palette. Now I will say that the quality in here is still, the mattes work really well. Like I have had zero issues with the mattes. I think they feel really nice. I think they are pigmented and can definitely be built up. And so I've had zero issues building out looks with the matte shades in this palette. I think that is where it really shines. So I do have to work to build up the shimmer shades. I do find that they are a little, I don't know, they're just okay. They're not bad, but you really do have to kind of build them up. And I don't think they even work that well with your finger. I really think it takes a brush and maybe even a damp brush and just kind of being okay, patting it on and layering it up. But I so enjoy the color story inside of this palette that I have made it work. I've been okay building these up. This is one of those palettes that I look at and it really does inspire me. So I do think I'm going to keep this one. Now we come to my two Emily Edit palettes. We have the Needs and the Wants palette. Let's start with the smaller one first. This is the Needs palette. I love what Emily was doing here. She is a huge fan of total face and eye palettes. It's one of those things that you can just see on her channel, brings her total joy. So when I saw her doing a total face and eye palette, including a setting powder, I totally was like, oh yeah, this has got Emily written all over it. My challenge is this color scheme just does not have me written all over it. I think the bronzer and the blush are fine. I have no issues with them. The highlight is just, it's just okay. I think it's a little lackluster if I'm being totally honest. I can make a pretty eyeshadow look with this because you've got 4 or 5 mattes rather, and then a sort of glittery shade here. I always felt like I wanted some sort of like higher shine eyeshadow for my lid, and really you've got mattes and then this purple shade which is kind of a matte with a glitter in it that in my mind was just okay. I traveled with this once, and this was the only thing I took just to kind of see, would this make me happy when I was traveling? And I just kind of felt like this really wasn't the color story that I reach for when I'm traveling and want that sort of compact all-in-one palette. So I don't know, I never really bonded with this one, to be honest. The larger the Wants palette, I definitely think the formula is super similar to the one that was in the Soph X palette. So I have similar commentary about the matte shades in here. I think they actually perform very well. I liked this corduroy shade. I actually thought that that dark green worked, which is something I don't see very, very often. And it built up and it actually looks green when you build it up as opposed to looking black. So I really did appreciate that. And once again, I think the mattes they're pretty. They do what they need to do. And I think there's a good mix of colors in here from a mattes perspective. The pigmentation on the shimmer shades is, you know, and Emily even addressed this in her video as far as how you've got to kind of pat them on versus that swiping motion. I definitely can get them to work. I don't have issue with them. I don't think that any of them are that high shine, super foiled eyeshadow that I think a lot of us really enjoy. But I can still find a place for this kind of shadow in my life. And I think it's a really pretty color story. I think there's a lot of fun, interesting looks that you can create in here. Things that are more colorful, things that are more sunset related. I don't know, I enjoy this palette. It's about as many shades as I personally want to see in an eyeshadow palette. If I'm being honest, I tend to prefer eyeshadow palettes with less shades. These bigger format palettes just, I don't know, they never really get me all excited, but I did really enjoy the color story in here. It's definitely Emily all the way with burgundies and greens and purples. Like I see her in this palette. So I don't know, I'm not ready to pass this one up yet. I'm going to keep this one. Okay, now we come to some palettes by Kokie and by Jessie's Girl. So the Jessie's Girl palettes I ordered online. I was trying out some loose pigments from them that I didn't end up liking at all. And in the process, they had like a buy one, get one half off, or I don't remember, some sort of sale. And I thought, okay, let's give these a whirl. One was a cool toned palette and the other was more of a rosy neutrals palette. And like I said, I was kind of on a cool tone palette prowl for a while there. I gotta be honest, guys, I don't like the quality of these shadows. I find that the mattes are a little patchy. The shimmer shades are kind of thick, but don't really apply well to the eyes. Like, I don't know. They don't swatch horrible. The cool toned one is just way too similar in tone, and so I just totally uninspired by this one. The more rosy toned one is pretty, but I'm just not, like I said, I'm just not gaga for this formula. The gradient down here on the bottom is so freaking subtle from one shade to the next that I just didn't feel like all of the shades were necessary. And then the shimmer shades were just kind of, I don't know, they were just meh and kind of hard to apply and kind of patchy. So I don't know, both of these were a little disappointing to me, and it's not a product that I would recommend. On the flip side, these two from Kokie Cosmetics are a new formula in their 9-pan palettes. So we have Act Neutral, which is this more cool toned palette here. And then we have Unearthed, which is this warmer toned palette here. These are what I wanted the Milani palettes to be. I don't feel like there's any real shade duplication. I feel like you've got different undertones. You've got a cool palette and a warm palette, but nothing is replicative in these 9-pan palettes. The formulation of the mattes is absolutely beautiful. It's super creamy, easy to blend, easy to work out, great pigmentation, just really impressive. I will say I had tried these 9-pan palettes in the past and was unimpressed by them. And then when Kokie said on their website that they were new and improved formula, I thought, well, we'll give them a whirl again. So I'm really glad I did, because I find them to just be gorgeous formulas. Really easy to work with. You do not need to use your finger. with these metallic shades to get them to show up. And then same thing in the warmer tone palette, you've got 4 mattes here. So you've got a sort of cream color, you've got a great transition kind of khaki color, a deepening shade, and a really pretty berry. And then the shimmer shades all have their own place. There's not replication in the shimmer shades either. So I feel like I had lots of shades that could do lots of things when I was making different looks, and then really pretty shimmer shades that I just, once again, didn't feel like were super similar to one another, gave me different options as far as lid looks. So once again, if you were looking for a drugstore warm palette or a drugstore cool palette, I would point you to these over the newer Milani offerings in these 2 color schemes.